Let me guess, you are sending off 100, 200, or even 500 resumes to ideal companies that you really want to work for, but you are not hearing back. You are checking your email and you have your phone on you 24/7, but you still hear nothing but rejection emails. Those dreaded, no thank you, we've gone with another candidate email. What is going on? You are qualified and you have all the relevant skills. What is happening? In this video, I want to use my 11 years of HR and recruitment experience to break down 7 common mistakes on why people are not landing great career interviews so that you don't make those mistakes. So if you get some good value from this video, hit that like button and comment thank you below so that it helps the algorithm push this video to more people that could use job search tips today. Okay, so really common mistake number 1, you have a very generic resume that is not well branded to a certain line of work. Honestly, this generic resume mistake is one of the most common mistakes that I come across because a lot of people try to put everything and anything on their resume. They try to really make it almost seem like they are trying to get a job offer from their resume, and it's not catching anybody's eye, because when you try to catch everybody's eye, you catch nobody's eye. Oftentimes people try to put every skill that they ever have learned on their resume ever since high school on there, and they jam pack it with everything. This truly does do nothing but confuse the person on the other end looking at your resume, because all they see is these very generic skills that aren't aligned with that exact role that you are gunning for. Ultimately, this just makes you blend in with the crowd and not stand out at all. So one of the biggest tips that I help my clients do is actually declare what kind of professional you are right at the top. So if you are an HR professional, right at the top that you're an HR professional, and then have your skills branded for that one line of work. What this does is it makes the recruiter or the HR professional focus on the skills that you have that are super relevant to that one line of work. So for example, going back to being an HR professional, maybe your technical skills are talent acquisition or policies and procedures. Maybe it includes onboarding or employment contracts. Do you see how these are all technical skills that are aligned with that one line of work? So it shouldn't be super generic skills either on the technical or interpersonal skills. They should be really clear and concise to that one line of work. Have I said this too many times yet? Honestly, I can't help but reinforce how important that is, because generic resumes get tossed in the garbage all the time. And if you're watching this video, you don't want your resume tossed in the garbage. So let's make sure your resume is not generic. Okay, common mistake number 2, you're not clear on your value. Look, it's no secret that even saying the phrase clear on your value does sound a little bit abstract and vague. So it's important to understand, what does that even mean? To me, being clear on your value means that you are clear on your skills, talents, experiences, and accomplishments, and you are able to package it up into a really, really clear brand so that employers know exactly what you bring to the table. The problem is, so many job seekers don't take the time to really reflect on themselves and get cognizant and aware of their value. So they just put together this very underwhelming brand, and then they start sending it off, and then they're really frustrated when, again, they don't hear back from employers. So your value needs to shine through your resume and be very, very clear so the other person on the other end doesn't have to guess what value you bring to the table. So how can you get clear on your value? We'll start off with number 1, brain dumping on your accomplishments. Where in the past have you helped save a company money, make a company money, or make somebody's life easier? Make sure that all the bullet points in your resume are clear, quantified accomplishments. Try to include metrics as much as possible, because those help hit home those great things that you did. Number 2, look at those ideal job postings that you're applying for and write down all the exact technical and interpersonal skills that they're looking for. Which ones do you have, and how can you include those on your resume? It's funny because a lot of job seekers overcomplicate the value piece, and they don't look at exactly what employers are looking for and put them down. Instead, they just think about themselves and think about, what skills do I have? But think about it. It should be a little bit of a selfless process. Look at the job postings and write down what they are looking for. Mistake number 3, you're not trying to network with the people that make the hiring decisions. Man, writing on this thing is much harder than you think. This looks like crap. Here's the truth. Your effort shouldn't just end as soon as you've hit submit. In fact, this is where your effort should really begin. Honestly, I swear the biggest reason why people don't network is that word alone is super obnoxious and super vague. What even is networking, and how do you successfully and strategically network? This is why I break networking down into 3 categories in relation to job searching. Number 1, application submission networking. What I mean by application networking submission is you should do your best after you've applied for a role to find people to network within the company that you just applied for. So go onto LinkedIn and try to find people that are HR professionals, recruiters, or potentially the hiring manager within that company that you just applied for. If you're looking for the hiring manager, try to find somebody with a title one above the role that you just applied for. So if you are applying, for example, for a manager of engineering role, try to find the director of engineering, because this is likely the hiring manager. In other words, this is likely the person that role will report into. So if they get a message from you with your very well branded resume, then they are very likely to open that message. Same with the recruitment professional. They want to close that role and hire for it. So you landing into their inbox is not a bad thing. It's a very strategic and tactical way to land in the inbox of the hiring professionals. Also think about, do you know people in that company? Could you get a referral? Who do you have on LinkedIn or in your network already that could help send your resume to the people that make those hiring decisions? Number 2, ideal company networking. Find people to network with that are in transferable companies and ideal companies that you have experience with. So if you've worked in the oil and gas sector before, how can you apply to other companies, regardless of them hiring or not, that they would look at your resume and say, this does make sense. This person wants to work here. They have very relevant industry and company experience. How can we just have a conversation with them? Or say you have experience in the tech sector. What are other tech companies that are hiring for the skill set that you need, regardless of having postings or not? How can you just get in touch with people within those companies? The third networking method is recruiter networking. So many people underestimate this tactic alone. They don't realize that you can just make a list of recruiters that often specialize in the role that you are gunning for, and you can just network with them. See if they have clients that need your skill set, that they can help you land that next career role. There's a lot of companies that specialize in engineering, for example, or human resources, for example, or executive search. So how can you make a list of great recruitment companies and start getting in touch with them today? This leads me to my next point, mistake number 4, you aren't reaching out to any recruiters. So going back to what I was just saying, finding that list of ideal recruitment companies that are really engaged and looking for great candidates, maybe like you, to build relationships with is extremely important. I know there are a lot of candidates out there that have had really bad experiences with recruiters, but that doesn't mean that you need to cut them off completely. To be honest, this is exactly like going to one restaurant, not liking that restaurant, and then saying you're never gonna go to any restaurant again. Just because you had a bad experience with one recruiter does not mean that all of them suck. In fact, a lot of them are really good at their role. So give people an opportunity to help you land your next career role by reaching out to great recruitment companies, introducing yourself, and giving them that well-branded resume that I was talking about earlier. Mistake number 5, companies don't like what they see on your social media. So here's a true story for you. In one of my past companies, we focused on talent acquisition, and we had this role that was very, very senior that we were recruiting for, and we had this great candidate come across our desk. In fact, he was so good, he went from interview, and then guess what? Eventually job offer. And honestly, no surprise, because he was really good. He was a specialist in his field, and he had great interview skills, so he did nothing but advance really fast. But guess what? When it came down to actually giving him a job offer, we did, but we had to rescind it because of something that he posted on his social media. And let me be clear, this was a very high paying role as well, over $200,000 per year with all the perks and pluses you can imagine. But guess what? In this role, he had to stay apolitical, very neutral in his political beliefs, but he was found on social media posting very strong beliefs of his political stance. So unfortunately, this didn't align with the expectations of that role, and yes, the offer was actually rescinded. And it was a big loss for him. To me, I always remembered this lesson that you really need to be careful with what you post online because employers will check. And don't get me wrong, it's not really usual that HR professionals check in maybe the phone screen stage. Oftentimes it's later on in the interview process, but it can happen at any time. So don't underestimate this. Drug and alcohol related posts, political posts, partying posts, these often don't land well in the eyes of an employer, so be mindful of this when you are job searching. Mistake number 6, you're mass applying. Here's the thing, oftentimes when you mass apply, you forget yourself what you even applied to. And there is nothing worse than a recruiter calls you and they say, "Hi, this is X, Y, and Z company." And you're like, "Who?" Because you don't even remember who you applied to. I promise, if that's your reaction, you're going right into the trash bin. So it is well worth taking the time to genuinely apply to companies that you are actually interested in and that you feel that you can bring a lot of value to. Honestly, mass applying often leads to you getting callbacks for roles that you're not even interested in at the end of the day either. So take the time to genuinely research the company and see if it's something that you want to do. And by the way, when I say tailor your resume, it does not need to be fully revamped every resume you submit to. This is a total waste of your time. Make sure you have a well-branded resume for one line of work, and then you shouldn't have to revamp it for every single company that you're applying for. Mistake number 7, you've applied too late in the process. So here's the thing, if you applied too late in the interview process, maybe 2 to 5 weeks after the posting is already out there, then you are now competing with a large talent pool. Hiring managers and recruiters start reviewing applications as soon as they receive them, so it's always best to keep an eye on the postings that are out there and apply as soon as they are posted. Also, hiring managers want to move quickly to fill the role, so the faster you can apply, the faster you can start networking with people in that organization, the higher chance that you have to get a call back. Applying early in the hiring process demonstrates eagerness and a proactive approach, so make sure that you are always watching for those job postings you're super interested in. Okay, there you have it. 7 reasons you are not hearing back from companies you really want to work for. Make sure you avoid these 7 common mistakes so that you can get on track to landing your next career role. And if you start landing great interviews, which I really hope you do, then watch this next video on how to land great job offers and avoid these very, very common mistakes there as well. Because once you get an interview, then there's a whole nother process to actually landing the job offer too. So make sure you watch that video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next video.